To another storm brewing, this one over health care. New fears today about the rationing of care. Sound familiar? This after reports the White House has quietly added a rule requiring Medicare to pay for end-of-life consultations. That will kick in next week. That clause dropped from the health care law after critics said it would lead to those infamous death panels. One Democratic congressman supporting the rule telling his supporters, and I quote, "The longer this goes unnoticed, the better our chances of keeping it." Republican Congressman Elect Joe Walsh from Illinois says this is yet another reason to repeal the whole thing. Welcome to your world. What do you make of those comments? What do you make of this new rule?
Hey, Brian, how are you? This is what's outrageous is the way they did this again. You know, sneaking and sliding in this regulation here during a holiday week. And again, you alluded to the fact that the Democrats, the folks who have interest in this regulation, are purposely trying to keep things, are trying to keep it quiet. They purposely don't want the American people to be aware of this. The American people got upset, and it was taken out of the original legislation. And to slip it in as a regulation after the legislation's been passed, it's just yet one more example of why this is such a flawed bill.
Is your problem with the rule itself allowing Medicare to pay for end-of-life consultations, people who can plan for their own passing, or with the way that it is being handled?
Both. Again, procedurally, this is not the way the American people want us to operate. This is something that should have been debated and voted on as part of the bill. But according to substance, this is, my fear is, and I think the fear of a lot of American people is, that this is a step down the road toward rationing. This is a decision that family members should be able to make in private. The fact that we're now using public funding to fund this type of end-of-the-life consultation is real troubling.
Well, let's get to that matter, right? Because there's a big difference between allowing people to choose the way that they will pass, being able to make their own decisions. And I'm sure that many in the Tea Party would agree with that. They're all for individual liberty, and making a decision about how you pass away is probably the most personal of decision. Is that the problem, or is it the fact that much of this is going to be paid by taxpayer money through Medicare?
The problem is that this is public money, so much of this is going to be paid through Medicare. That's yours and my tax dollars. The other problem, though, is, and again, I think there's evidence to tell us this is where we're going. This will lead toward rationing. We will get to the point where government, again, through our tax dollars, will, in essence, encourage folks near the end of their lives to consider other options.
And what's wrong with, Joe, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with allowing people to make their most personal of decision?
The decision, Brian, should be personal, first of all. And I don't want my government taking a side in that. We don't want our government deciding, in essence, who should get care and who should not get care. We can't be naive to think that they slipped this in the dead of night here, in between Christmas and New Year's, because they thought it was a good thing. This is a first step that should be opened and debated, because the ramifications of this are huge.
Well, we can debate the substance of it, but I want to get to another email from the same congressman, Representative Blumenauer, about this. Quote, "We would ask that you not broadcast this accomplishment out to any of your lists." He's talking to Democratic Party members. "Even if they are supporters, emails can too easily be forwarded." Another example that it seems the Democrats, many of them, are trying to keep this new rule under wraps.
Well, that's what's so troubling. They knew this when the legislation passed, which is why it was taken out of the legislation. The American people, as they learned about this, and they had genuine concerns about where this might lead, they raised a stink. And clearly the folks on the other side are trying to avoid that. They don't want the American people to be aware of this. And just the fact that in emails they're saying, let's do our best to keep this quiet, that's something that should really concern a lot of us.
Congressman-elect Joe Walsh, thank you very much for joining us on Your World.
Thank you.
All right, take care.